Welcome! I'm so glad you're here. I'm Gila Ross, parenting educator and coach, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Confident Parent podcast, bringing you the content you need to bring more ease, joy and love into your parenting so that you can show up as the parent you want to be to your children. Because I know life happens, and I saw one of these Facebook parenting groups, and someone posted this morning, like, I love the approach and the new things that I'm learning, but how do you actually remember to do it? Anyone else can relate to, you have all these good ideas in your head, actually doing it. So we're gonna address it later on in this class. We'll just do a very, very quick recap of where we are up to. So we spoke about the 3 stands that we're going to take as parents. Stand number 1 was we are no longer giving energy for negative behavior, right? For negativity. Stand number 2 is absolutely yes, we will give energy for positivity. And we spoke about noticing our kids and giving them the acknowledgements, and that is split between conditional and unconditional, right? The unconditional of, like, when you just sit next to a kid and you read them a book, or you say, oh, you're so cute, or what a funny joke, all those things that you just kind of enjoy your child, right? Which is something to also just do, right? Because life can sometimes get busy, but just take those minutes where we can sit and enjoy the kids. Those moments just before they're falling asleep, when you can look at them and enjoy them, all those types of moments. And then the other, I think some people on here get my humor. And then there's the conditional, right? The ones where we say, thank you for listening, or thank you for not pulling your sister's hair. I can see how much self-control you have, right? All those different acknowledgements that we spoke about in the course so far. And the third one is the absolute clarity, right? We gave the analogy of the video games or the sports. So part of the reason of why it's so engaging for our kids is because it's so clear. They know when they're in the game and they know when they've messed up. And that's what we're going to try and recreate. Obviously, we're human, but as much as we can get that absolute clarity. For some parents, we struggle with the clarity because we feel bad. We feel like, oh, come on, they just kind of stepped over the line. Maybe I should let it go. Maybe I should turn another eye. Anyone on here like that?
Yeah, I'm like that.
Yes.
I'm like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot. There are a number of us that I can say. I also struggle with it sometimes. It feels like harsh almost to take a stand every time. Interestingly enough, we see when the Jews came out of Egypt, right, they were slaves to Pharaoh. And what happens next is they become the Jewish people. They go through the desert, they receive the Torah, and they sort of get we call it the festival of our freedom. But really, it's the lead up when they accept the Torah and they accept all the commandments of the Torah. But the fascinating, obviously this is a discussion for a whole nother time, but the fascinating idea behind this is that the rules and the structure of the Torah give us that structure and the ability to be free to be ourselves. And that's what we are going to recreate for our children as well in our homes, right? When we give our kids the structure and the clarity and the love and the consequences, we are giving them that, building that structure so that they can be free to be who they really need to be. Because if you think about it, even the most difficult child, they also want to succeed. They also want to be able to live and keep the rules, but all these things are getting in their way, right? Whether it's their drive for attention, whether it's their impulsivity, whatever it is. And we as the parents, when we give them the absolute clarity, combined with, I'm not going to give energy for the negatives, but I am going to energize the positives, we give them that structure that allows them to be free. Last week, we spoke about the consequence part of it, right? We spoke about the idea that what we're going to do is when a child steps over the line, we give them what we call a short timeout, which we called in this course a reset. You're free to use any words that you want. I like the word reset because I think it really tells the child exactly what it is. It's a short timeout from the game so you can reset yourself and get back into the game. of life and getting our attention, and that we can continue giving them the successes. So we said that the first step is having the conversation and telling our kids that we believe in them, right? We know that they've been trying hard. They've been trying to keep the rules a little bit more, and they've been doing, they've been following up to our values. And now we're going to make it easier by giving a very clear reset every time they mess up. Did anyone get a chance to implement it? Yes.
I couldn't wait. Actually, next day in the car on the way to school, I was like, right, so you know what? This is happening. And
I thought you were going to say you as soon as you finished the call, you went and woke them up.
I was keen, but not quite that keen. And we had the conversation. And Max seemed to really take it on board, to the point where he really didn't want to get any. He didn't even know what it really was, but he didn't want to get one. But he's my yes kid. Leo, on the other hand, didn't really get it, and I don't know whether it's because he's a bit young anyway. Like so I explained it. He said he understood it, but didn't really. And then when it came to actually dishing one out, because he'd done hitting or whatever it was, after knowing the rule, and like I'd even given them a chance, like I'd gone, if you carry on, there's going to be so they knew it was coming. And then he got one, and he just, I don't know, he didn't. I'd ignored him the way that we discussed, but he didn't really seem to bother. Just carried on doing what he was doing. I didn't really find a way to sort of stop him in his tracks.
Okay, so how old is Leo?
3.
He's 3. Okay, and how is he? His verbal skills?
Yeah, he's quite good. He's okay.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I think I'm so eager and to implement it. We're going to talk a little bit more.
I had a go. But it didn't really work because I don't think she understood. She was just being, while we were eating, she was trying to put her fork between the table and like the glass top on top of the table. She gets all her food under it. It's really annoying to clean. So I told her, I was like, well, stop doing that. And then I said, right, that's a reset. And she just looked at me and was like, whatever. A bit like the fine in the car that you talked about. Well, I just ignored her for a few minutes and that was it. But that was only once I did it. I think I need to carry on.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. I think it's great that you're trying to implement it. And I love the fact that you brought up the fine in the car, because we're going to talk about that in a second as well. Anyone else? Did anyone else try it?
I had the conversation.
Yeah.
Like if you're naughty, that you're going to get a timeout, and if that happens, like I'm not going to speak to you, and you have to suffer the consequence. But like he's really good, so I didn't have to do it.
Because that's the other part that I was gonna. I don't know if we spoke about it afterwards, but we that like when you get I don't know if anyone has had a roof fixed. So usually when you don't want it to rain, right? Like especially you get it fixed. It's in summer usually because they're not coming out in the winter to fix it. But once they fix it, you want the rain to come because you want to see, is it going to stand the test of time? And with this as well, once you have the conversation, we almost want the rain to come. We want them to mess up. Beck, I think it's fantastic that you had that conversation, and it's really, really fantastic that you didn't need to give him a reset. That's brilliant, right?
I feel like
I want to point out what Amy points out and also what Nikki points out. And I think Nikki already said this, that it's like it's like the fine, right? The first time you get that £2 fine, who cares? So you turn away and you don't give them attention for a minute or so. It doesn't really bother them in a minute. At the first few times, and the idea is that it shouldn't. It's not something that has to be punitive. It's not something that has to hurt the kids. It just has to be a consequence that interrupts their flow, the flow of goods. And over time, the kid realizes that, you know what, it's not worth it, right? It's not worth testing. There are some kids that when you have that conversation with them and then you set the reset, they will test you, right? They will say, but I didn't break any rules, but that wasn't worth the reset, but whatever. And they're testing you. And the idea, right, is to just completely disengage, right? Have that image of that police officer that's giving the fine, right? They're completely neutral. They don't care. And for us, sometimes it's really hard to do that because sometimes what the kid is doing, it could be an emotional reaction for us, right? If let's say your child is saying something nasty, or your child is being not nice to another kid, or they're doing something that's going to cause a big cleanup, we can have an emotional reaction, but as much as possible, we try not to have that emotional reaction. And we also try not to give warnings. At this point, our kids more or less know what the rules are. They know what they can do. They know what they can't do. They know that, for example, they're not allowed to put the food under the table, for example, or whatever it is. So it's just, you did it, reset, and as soon as you have settled down and taken the reset, and you choose, right? It could be a minute, it could be less than that. As soon as you've taken it for a little bit, then you, as the parent, tell them your reset's over. You can give them acknowledgement for taking the reset. Or if it's something that they made a mess beforehand, you can say to them, thank you for taking the reset. I can see how much self-control you have, that you're able to switch yourself around. Now I need you to clean up the mess that you took. Okay, now I'm going to throw out in a situation, maybe it just happens in this house, I don't know. Does it ever happen in anyone's house that you ask your child to do something and they don't jump to it immediately? Just us, apparently. All right, so it's just us. So that being the case, I'm going to throw it out to you. How do you deal with that? Yes, you ask them, get into pajamas, and you turn around and 30 seconds later, they're not yet in pajamas. They're sitting there as though you haven't spoken, or whatever else it is that you're asking them to do. And I can tell you also what happens is sometimes we say it once and the kid, whatever, as though we're not talking, goes way over their head. Say it a second time and you're staying calm, and you say it a third time, and then boom, you can't take it anymore, and then we explode, right? Ever happened to anyone like that? Yes, I see some hands up, right? Because what's happening is we're trying to be calm, but our frustration is mounting, and then boom, we explode or whatever, and either we give a consequence or we shout or whatever, and the kid then focuses. But what happens over time is, unfortunately, our children learn to only listen when we raise our voice or when we give a consequence, instead of listening the first time. So here's how we can use this tool, this idea, is to help our children listen the first time, right? And again, if you think about it, it's not a tactic, it's not a quick fix, it's something that we want to get into the habit of doing. It's something that we want to create in our homes. And that is, if you tell your child, get into pajamas, right? You tell them even once, get into pajamas, and they don't move. Give them 5 seconds, count in your head 5 seconds. That's a reset. And if your child is probably doing nothing at the time, right? So you can give them a reset for a very short time, but usually when you say that's a reset, that catches their attention. And then you say to them, look, I see that you've taken your reset, right? You took it so quickly. It shows me that you're such a good listener. Now I need you to go and get into pajamas. And again, if they don't listen, then you give them a reset again. But the idea here is that we're trying to switch that habit and teach our children to listen the first time that we say things, because that's going to make it much, much easier for us to parent and for them to be parented. Now, the one thing that I would also add is that, again, it depends on your child, but sometimes you may have to add in a rule that during the reset, there's no reading, there's no playing with toys or whatever it is, right? And it can be helpful, because if, let's say, your child is reading while you tell them that's a reset, they may not even notice, they may not even care, right? So you may have to add in a rule that there's no playing or whatever else it is. On one hand, you want them to understand that it's a stop, right? It's like life kind of, just like the police officer stops you, life kind of stops for them during the reset, and it doesn't have to be for a long time. And as soon as I, the parent, see you take your reset, that's when it's going to end. And it might be helpful to practice with them, right? To practice ahead of time, right? So your child hasn't said anything yet, and we're gonna practice once you have that conversation. Now, with younger children, or with children that don't seem to care, I would say keep doing it, because it works over time, right? The idea is that we're trying to sort of retrain them to listen and that it doesn't have to hurt, and they're not going to get energy. They're getting the energy from doing the positives. We're teaching them the rules by creating situations where they learn the rules. We're teaching them their greatness by pointing it out to them. We're teaching them all the stuff that we want them to learn in the positives. But when they mess up, that's when we give them a reset. And I would add one final thing is that sometimes there are actions that a child can do that we feel as a parent requires more than just a reset. I don't know, a child breaks something, a child hurts a sibling, whatever your 2 or 3 things that you feel are greater than just, a reset. You feel like the child needs a little bit more. So what do we do then? Because we want to continue with these 3 stands, the stands of I'm not going to give energy to negativity, but on the other hand, we want them to still learn that was completely unacceptable. So what we can do then is give them something that's called community service, and you as a parent get to decide it. So I'll give you an example. Let's just say you have 2 kids, and one of them hurts the other. You watch the one of the children come and punch the other one over it, and that for you is a non-negotiable. That's overstepping a line. That's more than a reset. So you could tell your child, community. You give them a reset. As soon as they take the reset, you can say to them, that what you did was and you can even do this ahead of time. You can tell them that there are certain things that you're going to have to get community service for. That was community service, and you can choose what the community service is. Community services: do something nice for the sibling that you hurt. Give some, shovel sweep up the neighbor's leaves, whatever it is. But basically, you're teaching your child to channel the energy for constructive purpose, and all privileges can be on hold until they have taken their reset and fulfilled their community service. What do I mean by that? Is if you think about it, our kids they need food, they need a bed to sleep in, they need lots of things, but much more than if you think about what our kids have, loads of what they have is privileges. Right? And if we need be, we can suspend privileges until they have fulfilled their reset and their community service.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you enjoyed this episode, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully: How to Bring Meaning, Joy and Love into Your Life, based on the timeless wisdom of Pirkei Avot. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Have a wonderful day.